what have you been reading? I mean, for the audiobook thing
Yeah. So I
recently.
started off with some really easy stuff. I started off with some chapters from some like fairy tale books. So I read a fairy tale on a phoenix, and I read a fairy tale on like like Native American fairies.
Right.
And then I just finished a chapter in a book about um, China and Tibetan religion.
Okay.
It was like I read a chapter on the canon of Tibet or
Right.
Tibetan Buddhism. So
And how did you get into this? I mean, are you being paid for your work? Is it
no, it's
like
all
a
volunteer. It's free
volunteer?
volunteer stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how did you get in touch with these people?
I was looking um, for things to do in my free time that would lead to either a job or a job in general.
Right.
Um, and I didn't want to do much of the online uh, work from home kind of jobs. So
Right.
I found but on Reddit there was a post on like, hey, if you want to do recordings, there's this website called LibriVox that you can just record your voice and
Right.
they would put it into an audiobook or a list of audiobooks.
I
And I was like,
consume
sure.
I consume audiobooks like crazy. And I mean just yeah, I mean I started this like 3 days ago. I'm reading Why We
Mm.
Sleep by Matthew Walker, who's a PhD person.
Oh yeah, he's been on the
Uh
Joe Rogan podcast.
yes, the same guy. So before listening to the video I was like, maybe I should just listen to the whole book. And audiobooks are so cool because I mean, otherwise, in a month, I'll probably just get done with one book or two, and reading it is a painful
Yeah.
thing. But
Oh yeah.
audiobook, man, you can just be doing your utensils and you'll finish half of the book, and it just the number of books I've been consuming is crazy. Also, I'm doing
Mm.
something illegal, which is so there's this Santa Clara County in the US. It's in
Okay.
California, and so I have subscription to a New York, sorry, a Santa Clara public library. So what I'm
Mm.
doing is I in their database I am some Paul something, and I consume like I take books from that like it's so I can this is a platform called Canopy, right, to watch online movies. I'm sure you've heard of it. So if you have a library membership you can watch like 15 movies in a month. So I'm doing that.
Mm.
I'm taking all advantages of a state like membership library card membership, just because
Mm.
like in COVID you can't really do, they can't check whether I'm there. Even for the
Mm.
address, it's like a foolproof thing, right? So if I write any address, 34 avenue, this street or whatever, it's not going it's they will check whether it's a legit address. So I had to do a lot of Google Maps and hit and trial, and finally I was like, okay.
Mm.
So I live next to a McDonald's in California somewhere.
I'll be sure to come visit you in California soon.
Please do. The IRS is looking for me. So yeah, I mean it's cool, man. Cool that you. I mean, it's always it's always a surprise with you, man. Like I talk to you after a week. I'm like, hey, what are you doing? Nothing. I just Bible studies. I'm just going to do Bible studies, and now you're doing audiobooks. I don't know what. I mean, I don't want to call you next week, man. I'm scared you'll be doing something else. That's cool, man. That's really great. It reminds me of what you were telling me, the yes man. I mean, I was trying to think of what to call it. Again, the intuitions that you get and you just say yes to it and go ahead. So
Oh
I
yeah. Okay.
remembered I saw this movie from by Jim Carrey's in it. It's called Yes Man,
Oh
and
yeah. I saw that a while
I,
ago.
yeah, he decides to say yes to everything that comes his way, right? And things just
Yeah.
fall into place for him. So it like your approach kind of reminds me of that. But yeah, it's cool, man.
Mm.
It's amazing.
Mm.
All right, Vincent. Today is going to be our last interview. Not that we won't be in touch, of course we will, man. But I would be really glad to get this over with so that I can start doing my, analysis and all of that boring
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah. So, and while doing my transcriptions, there's certain themes that have come up which are so interesting that are not a part of the questionnaire. But I would love to ask you these questions.
Yeah.
So I don't know what to ask first, but maybe I'll just go through it. Uh, Right. So you told me you did not hear auditory hallucinations, right? You only had delusions. You did not
Um,
hear voices of other people. You just had ideas that were like false beliefs and things like that.
there were thoughts. They weren't really. They were voices in the sense of thoughts. I don't know if that counts.
But they, you did recognize them as your own voices and not
I
somebody
didn't
else's.
recognize them as my own. I thought they were separate from myself.
Oh, okay. All right. So, well, one insight that came up from the analysis was that whatever auditory hallucinations we are listening to are things that interest us and are of interest to our own selves. So for example, it's some people say that, you know, you just hear random voices in psychosis, and you like you tune into a broken radio almost. But
Hmm.
it's not true, because see, for example, if I'm a musician, I hear guitar players voices, or I hear musician voices, instead of, say, a cricketer telling me how to do leg spin, or a baseball player telling me how to, you know, swing a bat. It's not of interest to me. So my auditory hallucinations, the content is not something which is not of interest to me. So that was something interesting, that
Hmm.
it's, so
Yeah.
that sort of tells you that, well, the
Hmm.
source is within. Because had it been external, then it could have been anything, right? But it's because it's of interest to you, it somehow is your unconscious or something that you're not, well, being able to explore normally. So you do it through, you know, the psychosis state. So I
Hmm.
just wanted to know your thoughts about the kind of auditory, were they of interest to you, or?
Yeah. That's I've never thought about it that way. It's like every time that I would be in my mind in psychosis, it wasn't something that I wasn't interested in. It wasn't something that I was just so bored of that I just like fell asleep or something. It was
Yeah,
always something interesting. Huh.
yeah. Again, it never came up to my, like, never, it never
Yeah.
really, I never really thought about it this way. Another
Hmm.
thing that came up was, again, and it's common, revisiting childhood, you know. Most of my participants, you, again, in your normal life, you go through this sort of chronology of events, that once you're done with this, you don't really revisit it. You don't have the time. You're so busy in your, you know,
Yeah.
day-to-day life. It's always something, having exam, high school exams, have graduation exams, have to get a job, to find someone, you know. But in psychosis, you sort of, well, things, you know, stop for a while, so that you can go back and revisit things you haven't been able to. And most people, it is revisiting childhood memories that you don't even know you had, you know. Like, it's
Mm.
amazing that it's so common. Did you, I mean, did it happen with you as well?
I'm trying to remember if I was looking back on my past while in psychosis. Give me a second. I don't I don't remember any I don't remember remembering any instances where I looked back at my past in psychosis. I
Right.
remember it was a few weeks before my first psychosis. I was looking back in my past um, at like the shame that I inflicted internally whenever I would masturbate as like a 16-year-old. I looked at that and I felt emotional about it because it was restrictive, but it
Right.
wasn't in psychosis. So I don't think so.
Right. All right, so I'm going to throw some terminology your way. Are you aware of inner speech? Have you talked about inner speech?
Inner speech. I mean, I can conceptualize what it means based
Yeah,
on
yeah,
the
it's
words.
it's again, it's a technical term. It's not something I want you to hazard a guess at. It's a medical term. So I mean, of course, you can guess what it is, but if you know, you know. Like, I would tell you otherwise.
Yeah, I don't exactly know.
Yeah. So there's this thing called inner speech, Vincent, which is the voice in our that is our own, that helps us to think or read a book. Psychotic people, in addition to that, also have voices that are not their own. Now, there is a claim that this is a dysfunction of inner speech. That is, it is your own voice that lets us think, uh, that it's coming from the outside, but because of a malfunction, instead of recognizing it as our own voice, we recognize it as someone else's. Okay, I'm just going to mark this and simplify the question. Just give me a second.
Okay.
Yeah, the way it has been phrased is so, I mean, confusing. Yeah. So the idea is that inner speech, well, remember a time when you were not psychotic, okay? And when you were thinking about something or when you were reading a book, right? There was this always a voice in your head that is guiding you, even helping you think. The voice that helps you think is your inner speech, okay? And in psychosis, it you hear multiple voices, like you just said, not just your own, but other voices as well that help you and guide you. Now, what few psychologists say is that this is a malfunction of your inner speech for psychotic people, that it your the ideas are being generated by your own self only. The inner speech is only generating, but what happens is you are not recognizing it as your inner speech and you are attributing it to an external source. So then it becomes separate from your inner speech, and it seems as if it's coming from the outside, or it's somebody else is talking to me.
Mhm.
So this is just one theory trying to explain why we hear different voices apart from our own. Now, would you be leaning towards saying this is a possible explanation? It can be my inner speech and a malfunction of inner speech, or would you say no? I recognize my inner speech and this is something else.
So this is really complicated because I haven't. So like I on the daily look at my imagination and interact with multiple characters who have different voices, and I know that it's also at the same time me speaking with these different voices. So I don't know that that's a malfunction of the inner speech. I think it's more like a a a perception, like a perception malfunction.
Okay, would you elaborate on that?
Yeah. So like perception malfunction in the sense that I'm not recognizing that these different voices are part of myself. My perception is that they're separate from myself and yet they're a part of me, but it's just the perception mismatch that went wrong.
Okay, okay, let's delve into this a little bit more. So, well, okay, a very simple question. How do you distinguish between the two? That this is my inner speech and this is something else. Now, I'll give you,
Yeah.
there are two ways you can say that the content of what is being talked about is different. So, for example, I hear Morgan Freeman saying something in my head, and my
Mhm.
rationalization is, well, I can't say something as funny as Morgan Freeman just said. It can't be me. Okay, so that's difference in content. The other thing is, well, Morgan Freeman doesn't sound anything like my voice. So it's a change of, pitch, inflection, tone, frequency, things like that. So the qualities, the almost physical qualities of the voice are what indicate to you that okay, this is different. Or the content, like I can't be as funny or as impressive as this voice. What is it?
So I'm trying to hold those two thoughts in my mind
Right.
simultaneously and seeing which one it is. It seems like it's. Can you repeat the second one for me?
So the tonal quality, the inflection, the volume, the how woman's man's is different woman's voice is different from a man's voice, things like that. Pitch.
I would say that it leans more towards the second one. I think.
Yeah, right. So it's not about the content. You don't pay much attention to, oh, this can't be me. Instead, it's just the voice is different, and immediately oh, this is something else. This is not me, right?
The way I want to describe this is using a mask analogy. It's like the characters are different masks that I put on inside of myself, and then I act as though I am the mask, and there's also me as not the mask at the same time.
Nice, nice. Okay, I will try to understand what this is. Right. Yeah, I can now understand why it's not a clear cut this and that for in your case, because it's a little complicated. But I understand what you're
Yeah.
trying to say. Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense also, man. Yeah. Okay. Okay, moving on. So misleading media representations don't just worsen the problem of stigma, they also negatively affect voice hearers' own understanding of their experiences themselves. Can you think of bad representations of psychotic individuals in movies or a TV series or print media, and how has it affected you in your personal life?
Bad examples of psychotic people in media. Um, hmm. I'm trying to think back to the media I've seen
I can give you two
about.
examples to help you out.
Yeah,
One, have you seen The Beautiful Mind?
I have, but it was so long ago I don't remember any of it.
So the lead character John Nash is basically, his character was a troubled genius because he was psychotic, and the other, you've seen Fight Club, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Edward Norton slash Brad Pitt is
Ah,
another
okay.
stereotype, a violent psychopath. So there are two, I mean, main media representations, like this is a violent psychopath and or a troubled mad genius. But there's
Okay.
a lot that comes in between. But also, I mean, in you trying to understand your experience of psychosis, you do take from whatever you see, like what are examples out there in the world of our psychotic people, and how do I make sense of my situation, in
Hmm.
those terms I want you to think a little bit.
When you described the beautiful mind, I my memory got triggered and I remember some of it now. I remember he was like talking with some like CIA agent or something like that.
Yeah,
Um, so I never thought about those as schizophrenic, but I definitely see that now. Well, okay, so that's not exactly true. At the moment that you said it, I didn't recognize it as movies that were psychotic, but in the past, I recognized it as movies that are psychotic. And I see how those two movies definitely don't portray it in the way that I experienced it.
right. But again, how does it, so if you know that the predominant social view of somebody who's psychotic is, stay away from this guy's crazy, right? And
Mm,
it's not a very nuanced understanding that okay, this guy hears voices or has no, it's just, it's a crazy person, stay away from him. So that also affects the way, well, who do you disclose your situation to? You then keep it to yourself,
mm,
or you don't seek help because hey, others are going to think of me as crazy. So that does it affect you in your understanding of who you are, and again seeking help and all of that, like your parents, for example, uh when somebody comes over and they want to know what happened to Vincent, a few years ago, what was, they
mm.
never, my parents never tell them about psychosis. So they're like, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, he was fine. I mean, they don't even, nobody
Mm,
knows, in my relative, nobody knows, because it's
mm.
something to be ashamed of. Maybe I am not ashamed, but yeah, that's the
So okay, um, I do see that there is that negative stereotype in the culture that I'm in. I don't know how media affects it. I'm guessing negatively. So I would say that the media does impact it negatively as a guess.
right. All right. Uh, have I talked about this visual hallucination with you? Did you told me about two instances of visual hallucinations? Did I tell you about, well, how? Okay, let me just see if I'll just say, like, read the question, and if you've done this, we'll just move on to the next one.
Okay.
So this is my personal experience. When I was experiencing visual hallucinations, it wasn't like they were not indistinguishable from what I was seeing with my eyes in the real world. They were like holograms, or seeing the world through glasses which has the hallucinations imprinted on the lenses. I could tell what was real and what was a hallucination, or what I would like to call a mental image. Okay. So the question again, it's uh, is that the our understanding of visual hallucination is that I don't know what is real and what is not real. It's like you said, it's a perceptual error. There is no real sensation or stimulus, but you're perceiving something that is not there. But in a typical visual hallucination, you cannot distinguish that this is hallucination and this is reality. In my personal case, I could distinguish, because it was like me thinking of a mental image and projecting it out there in the real world. But I can still figure out, this is my, well, this is the image that I'm projecting and this is the real world. So I'm not confused that what is a hallucination, what is not. And it's not, it's as much as, me drawing my hallucination on my lenses through which I'm seeing the world. So I know this is the drawing and this is the world, right? In your case, were the voice visual hallucinations almost indistinguishable, or could you tell this was?
Um, could I tell that the hallucinations were not physical reality? Um, hmm. It's hard for me to say because my belief system at the time was that the my imagination was the same as physical reality. So, in the sense that the it's like so it's hard to describe. It's like there's the experience of the physical world, and that experience is real. And there's also the experience of a dream. And while you're in a dream, the experience is real. They're both real, but they're not in the real in the same sense as like the physical reality. You can manipulate things and things will stay the way they are unless something else acts on it. And this is real in the sense that I'm experiencing it. There's is that similarity of I'm experiencing it still exists in both realities. So going back to psychosis, the experience of the imagination and the experience of the real, like the physical world, exists at the same time, and I blended them together in a way that said they are both existing in the same way instead of different ways.
I completely get what you're trying to say. Let me like probe a little further. So what is real for me right now? For example, I could, don't get spooked, okay? For me, I see a woman, hanging onto the cupboard right now over there.
Hmm.
And these, well, all these are physical realities which are objectively real. But for me, the experience of seeing that woman there is also just as real, right? So if this is a box of all the things that are real for me, it also has the woman that I'm seeing, and it also has the things that are actually there, right?
Mm.
So I mean, that is exactly what you're saying, right? The
Yeah.
experience is real for me. I don't care if it is there or not. And
Yeah.
similar, it's just as real as something actually being there.
Yep.
But can you, well, can you, if somebody asks you at that point that, okay, like for me, somebody asked me, Polak, do you, I mean, is the fact that the cupboard is there, is it just as real as the woman over there? Like, or can you distinguish, okay, there's a different sort of real and this is a, can you do
Yeah.
that distinguishing, or is that also difficult?
Was I able to do the distinguishing in psychosis? Um, hmm. I want to say yes because I knew that I could, for example, move a chair,
Right.
but I couldn't move like my imagination in the same way.
Right. It's almost like you don't, you move a chair because you know it's going to come out as a winner in the challenge, like if I try to move it, it will move. But you, I mean, that the imagination is not going to come clean if it is exposed to like a challenge, like if I go and try to inspect the woman there and try to see the reaction, I will be disappointed. I'm like, oh fuck, this is maybe this is not real.
Yeah.
So I don't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yep.
so complex, man. These things, like, they're so abstract sometimes. It's difficult to. I mean, it's crazy that we still get what we're trying to say, but it's still, as an academician, it's difficult for me to put it into like
Yeah.
scientific work. Anyway, moving on. Did I have I told you about thought broadcasting? You did say you also experienced it.
Yeah.
Is that my
Yep.
thoughts? People have access to my whatever I'm thinking. Other people can also think. I want to
Yep.
dwell on it a little bit. So, uh, well, in my case, it's in your mind. The devices you use to think are okay. Words are one thing that I think in words, but I also think in mental images, right? And so there were times when now I also tried to find out a lot of times what is the what is the range of people intercepting my thoughts. So if I'm here,
Hmm.
how far across is the range of people
Hmm.
accessing my thoughts? And I did try to, well,
Yeah.
go to really isolated places, like a jungle, and then say, oh, hey, wait, now the city is very far away, they probably can't, but I would still feel, oh, they can still, so I never knew
Hmm.
how many people, how big the range is, things like that. And so what I would do is, so again, I have a teacher, and this is very personal, but again, I had a teacher, a female teacher, who was like 3 or 4 years elder to me. Okay. And I had Pulak had a little crush on that teacher. I don't know why I'm referring to myself in third person. I still like her. Okay. So I had a crush on her, right? And I go to the college, and well, it's your base desire. You don't have control over it, right? And so I saw a mental image of my faculty who is naked, right? And I saw her naked, and I was like, oh shit, now I am going to my class. All the students in the class, the teacher is there.
Hmm.
They've all seen the naked image that I have just projected in my mind, right? So now I can't go, of course. I'll
Hmm.
be embarrassed. So,
Hmm.
well, I didn't. So what I started doing was I started talking about social issues because my mind headspace was not private anymore. So I'd be like, hey, drive properly,
Hmm.
man. Just like look at the signal, you should wait at the red light and go at green. And I would not talk about personal issues or things that are
Hmm.
objectionable like sex and, desire. And I talk about, well,
Wow.
you should work hard, man. You should be a more moral person. Come on. Things like that, that I would normally not pay much attention to. I don't give a fuck if you
Hmm.
don't. I mean, as long as you're not running me over, I don't care if you look at the lights or not, right? So yeah, so that's why thought broadcasting
Hmm.
leads to moral policing and preaching and all of that. So now my question is, did you experience thought broadcasting? And did you get frustrated because you believed everyone else could hear your thoughts but are pretending they can't hear them? And in what way did you tackle that problem?
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely had thought broadcasting, and I did get upset sometimes when people then react to my thoughts. It's like, come on, you're just acting. You know what I'm thinking.
Yeah,
Just do it.
yeah.
And what was the last part of the question?
I mean, how did you tackle? It's a very difficult thing to tackle. How did you tackle this? Because everyone everywhere can hear you. How did you tackle this situation?
Yeah. How did I tackle the situation? Hmm. Um,
What measures did you take to sort of not like save your privacy or save yourself a little bit?
man, what did I do? I don't think I did anything. I just kind of accepted it. Like, okay, you can just hear my thoughts now, and that sucks. And
Yeah.
now well, I guess in a way, I created the delusion that the people in my life, like in the physical world, who hear my thoughts, they are so far advanced from my own way of thinking that they're intentionally acting normal so that they can get me to see an unseen truth.
Okay. So everyone is assisting you to get to a bigger sort of revelation and truth. They're all assisting you
Yeah,
by not
yeah,
disclosing that we can hear you. So let him be on his journey.
yep, that's
Okay. So
correct.
they're helping you,
Yeah,
but it's also frustrating, right? That everyone can hear your thoughts.
yeah, it's it's a really weird experience. There's also a feeling that is associated with that for me. So there's the feeling of sight. that doesn't make sense when I say it because it doesn't make sense. So I want to give you some more examples on to flesh that out. So do you know what synesthesia is?
Yes.
So I'll just define it so that we're on the same level. Make sure that. So synesthesia to me is like I would see a color, but I would like smell something. So it would be associating physical touch with sight, but in my head.
Right.
And that feeling of sight would exist at the same time as thought broadcasting.
Right. Okay. But yeah, I understand, Vincent. But I'm also trying to. Well, I'm trying to understand how did you manipulate your thoughts then to sort of. Did you try to keep your private thoughts private? Did you not like, okay, they should not know a lot about me? Were you trying to, well, consciously think about things that will maybe wane away their interest so they stop listening to you? All those intricacies of I need my private space. If I can't, then I will do something to,
Yeah.
well, dissuade them or something.
Yeah, I understand the concept. It's like trying to make sure that other people don't see the the deep parts of yourself, and I don't
Right.
remember doing that.
Okay. So you were like, I don't care. You were thinking whatever you were thinking, right?
Yeah. Yep.
All right. There's the few other things that I did too, and I just wanted to know if you did something similar. Is that so well, the mental images people can see, okay, but
Mm.
it's also if I look at something and if it sustains my attention for a little bit, it automatically becomes a mental image that gets broadcasted without me controlling. So for example, if I'm peeing, okay, and I look at my dick and I'm peeing, and where I'm like, oh shit, my thoughts are being broadcast, and I'm like, oh shit, now I just sent a mental image of my dick to everybody.
Mm.
So what I would do to counter that is hide it with my hand, and or not look at it or not take baths for
Mm.
months, man. So hygiene
Mm.
became a problem. And yeah, I mean, things like masturbating, man. I didn't masturbate for 2 months because I knew if
Mm.
I start masturbating, if I start watching porn and something excites me, so it's like if I
Mm.
don't stay at one place. I mean, if it's a constant feed, nothing turns into a mental image. It's all going. But the moment it's something attracts me and I'm like, okay, this is nice, and you take a mental snapshot and immediately it goes to everybody. So porn, it's bound to happen that I see a girl and I'm like, oh, she's so hot, and that immediately goes to everyone. So
Mm.
things like that. I mean, did you, for example, I mean, it's a personal question, that's why I didn't ask, but all these things which are very private, like your body anatomy, did you do something to get rid of eyeballs there?
Did I do something to get rid of the thoughts being broadcast to other people that I didn't want them to see?
Yeah.
Um, I think I just looked at objects and just focused on objects so that the thoughts wouldn't be so, I don't know, loud.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, moving on. So there's this Dutch psychiatrist called Marius Room, and he claims that voices are messengers communicating important information about unresolved emotional problems. Do you think your voices had significance, and do they point to underlying psychological problems?
Do I think my voices had significance, and do I think that they point to psychological problems? Um, hmm. I think the voices were significant and psychological problems. Hmm. I think they point towards the parts of myself that I wanted to forget because they were painful.
Okay. And Were they indicating you to do something about it, or just give you this information and you know? Were they also giving you
Um,
direction?
Giving me direction. Um, it's hard to say because in some instances where I'm gonna use the mask analogy again. So like the masks I saw as outside of myself, and there was still me.
Right,
And sometimes I, as me, would say do this, and sometimes the masks would say do this or don't do this.
right.
Uh, hmm.
So
So,
in a conflict, who do you listen to? The mask or the person within the mask? Like if they are on one thing they don't agree, if one wants this and the other wants that, which one do you go for?
hmm. Talking about psychosis or right
No,
now?
no. I mean, uh, yeah, psychosis. But again, if you can think of a particular instance where there was a conflict, and which one, what did you choose in that occasion? You know, that
Okay.
will tell you who do you want to listen to more. You know, in that
Yeah.
sense.
When did I listen to? Who did I listen to more? Hmm. I don't remember.
That's okay,
Well,
man. It's
yeah.
I mean, it's just you see, it's not everything is for me collecting data, but for you to just maybe take a step back and think about whether this is important for you to explore. So yeah, that's also why I'm doing this. You know, it's not just well data. Anyway, so again, no pressure. Let's move on to the next question. So, do you still hear voices? Do you want them to go away, or would you want to form a healthy relationship with them so that they're not distressing? Well, do you still hear voices?
Um, Voices in the sense of thoughts, yes.
No, but that is
And
your,
I
apart from your inner speech. The one that is your own voice is normal. It's okay. But do you hear voices apart? I mean, that is also normal. But do you hear voices apart from your inner speech still?
so using the mask analogy, I communicate with the masks that are also me.
Right.
So yes and no.
But how voluntary is that process? Is how so when I say healthy relationship, how much in control of the interaction are you? Like, is it can the mask come? Hey, listen, this is my time to talk. I'll start talking now, and you have to listen. Or is it okay, mask? I need guidance here. Come on, let's talk about this.
Okay. Yeah. Um it's it's like the image in my mind would pop up of the different characters, and then I talk to them, and if I don't talk to them and I just continue about my day doing physical activities, then I become stressed, and that stress slightly lessens as I go into my imagination. So it's
Right.
like I don't have to, and at the same time there's a consequence.
Right. But does it? Okay. So I mean, it is in a way. Then you have found out a way to make this a regimented controlled activity, even though it's not
Yeah.
100% in your control. But I mean, you tell yourself there are consequences, so you make sure you do give certain time to. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yep.
yeah, that's a good way to. That is a healthy relationship then. uh, okay. Do you think your way of living, our way of living, our lifestyle, our worldview has something to offer to quote unquote normal people? Do you think you would choose a normal life if you had been given the option?
So like are we looking at this like I'm dead and I get to go reincarnate and you get to choose, hey, do you want another psychotic life or do you want to just not be psychotic? Is that kind of the idea?
Uh, yeah, I mean, you can, yeah, sure.
Okay. I think about this often and I don't know, man. It's really fucking hard to go through psychosis. It's really fucking terrible. And also the reward is great. I don't know what the answer is. I don't know.
Uh,
A part of me says no, I don't want to go through all that again. And a part of me is like, yeah, this is my life now is so much better.
yeah.
It's I have no idea.
Yeah,
I don't
but
know.
okay, this is a difficult question. I agree. I mean, I'm sorry to put you on the spot like this, but do you think other normal people have something to take from our lifestyle or our learning? Because I will tell you why I ask you this. I My life didn't have a very concrete, well, purpose before Psychosis, and
Hmm.
there are very small avenues in life to figure out your real self and what is your purpose and what do you really want to do. Psychosis is one of those activities. Once you come out of it, you know a few things about yourself.
Hmm.
Who your real self is, who you are, what your purpose is, what do you really want, and sort of shedding all these questions that, like naive questions. What is my purpose? What is life? Or you get answers to those and you don't ask stupid questions after that. So that, if somebody is not going through Psychosis, they don't have no way to, I mean, do they have other avenues to figure out who they are and things like that, purpose and all of.
Yeah.
So it's,
So my thoughts go to Jordan Peterson. He
yeah,
brings up an idea in a few of his videos where it's like if someone doesn't have any psychological framework by which to live their life by, then that sucks. And if they get any psychological framework at all, that's much better than nothing. There might be better psychological frameworks, but anything at all is better than nothing at all.
right.
So it's like using the psychosis as one of those frameworks. It's like that's better than the nothing that I had.
I would contest it's the most refined framework there is, like
Hmm.
for this life. I mean, I see I see so many good works of art informed by Psychosis or psychotic thinking. Like I
Yeah.
see it everywhere, that pattern, the ideas that even in filmmaking, in music, everywhere I do see aspects of it. So I'm like, dude, even if you don't know what you're driven by, I know it. And because I mean, I didn't choose Psychosis, but now
Hmm.
life has become a little easier because you see
Yeah.
patterns everywhere because of that.
Yeah.
So there is, I mean, for somebody who hasn't gone through Psychosis, there's a lot to learn from another psychotic person. I completely believe in that.
Yeah. I I can see how giving people the words that can help them look at their internal world is very beneficial.
Right.
And then psychosis is like getting the very first hand experience of what that can be like.
All right, so we come to the last few questions, Vincent. Um, can you list all the nice things about being a psychotic person? Things that a normal person might be missing out on, and how would you contrast the two lifestyles?
Psychotic in the sense that I am psychotic in the moment or as I am now after psychosis.
We are all psychotic people, Vincent. No matter, I mean, not everybody in the world, but anyone who's gone through Psychosis, I will be a psychotic person all my life. Even if I am recovered now, I take so much from my, well, box of Psychosis that I'm still a psychotic person. So in
Mhm.
that sense,
Okay. And then what was the question?
all the nice things about being a psychotic person, things that, well, somebody else, a normal person might be missing out on, you know.
Okay. Yeah. Some nice things are that
Sell,
wherever I
sell
what was that?
psychosis, sell Psychosis to me, like as a
Okay.
salesman. Can you sell
Sell
psych?
psychosis to you.
Yeah.
Well, first off, you don't want to do this, but I'm going to give you all the benefits.
Right.
Side effects may include death, like I'm selling you a pill or something.
Yeah.
Um, no, so some good aspects of good aspects of how I am now post psychotic. Wherever I am, I can imagine things instantaneously and talk about those things with myself and my masks and address things that are going on inside of me that I don't look at if I'm just like doing physical activity. So there's always the possibility to do something,
Right.
whether it's something that's forming potential or something that's forming physical actuality.
Right.
Um, and that will just always exist now. Another benefit is that I can have fun with my imagination, whereas
Right.
before I couldn't. Like, I had fun with my imagination as a child. Like, I would imagine fights in my mind. Like, I would watch Naruto and like imagine characters fighting from the Naruto universe. Like, that was just fun. But now it's like I can do the same thing and also apply meaning to those fights.
Right.
So there's a fun and meaningful aspect to the imagination experience. Um, Other benefits. I'm able to look at myself much clearer. I mean, it's not like crystal clear, but it's like the difference between looking at myself in the mirror through a fog and looking at myself in the mirror um, just farther away from the mirror.
Right.
Um, it's like so the my ability to change myself has increased dramatically. So like I got this painting like uh, it's hard to just so like all the things I've been doing, the new things like the Bible study, the uh audiobook
Right.
recording, like all this new stuff in my bedroom. I even cleaned up my bedroom after hearing Jordan Peterson, and I
Right.
tried ascribe Jordan Peterson as well as myself to the my ability to do that. It's like my ability to change what I do in my environment has increased dramatically. So it kind of ties in with the imagination. Like the imagination is a way for me to form potential in order to bring that into actuality.
I know
It's like
a few things. I mean, if you can draw connections between them, uh, again, creativity and psychosis, your creative ability and how whether psychosis helps or doesn't, and all these things that you're describing, right? Uh, Getting the painting and cleaning your room and going for Bible study, audiobooks. These
mhm,
are all. If somebody else looks at it, they can say, oh, these are very impulsive actions, and but yet again, while they're still being impulsive, there is it's not like you're going to leave it. I mean, you are doing it sincerely, all of these things. I can clearly see that. So uh I mean, in normal life, when we try to take a decision, we almost deliberate over it for hours and hours, and we still procrastinate and
mhm.
never get down to doing anything.
Yeah.
Is I mean, if you can just talk about, well, how has your creative ability been changed by psychosis, or are you more creative in psychosis, or being impulsive, can you like change
Mhm.
things, like you say, would you it'd be difficult for you if you were not psychotic, right?
I want to say yes. When I look at the patterns in my life prior to psychosis and after psychosis, I'm able to change things faster.
Right. Why do you do that though? Why do you change things impulsively? Do you what's behind the
Yeah,
impulsive
well,
decision?
so all the thing, okay, 80% of what I'm doing in my current daily life is for one goal, and that goal is to have a family. So, like, me cleaning my room was a step towards creating a family because, like, if I have a disorganized room and my child sees my disorganized room, they're also going to be disorganized. So, I need to clean up for myself and my future family. I need to go to church and Bible study because that's where I'm going to find my future wife. I need to do more work like outside of my current 9 to 5 job because like I need I need to get more money so I can support my family. So me doing this recording stuff is like planting seeds. Like maybe in the future I'll be able to get a job that's recording audiobooks
Right.
and that would make me more money. So let's do this because it's for the family.
Right.
Um, let's let's shovel snow because I'm gonna need to be the guy that shovels snow, and it also makes me stronger. Like it's kind of like a workout. Like 80% of what I do is because I'm doing this for the family in the future, and then like 20% is like I'm just gonna play this video game because I just want to play this video game.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, that's nice to hear, Vincent. Such, I mean, you have such beautiful thoughts sometimes, man. It's so amazing. Yeah,
Thank
because
you.
we in the lockdown I picked up things. Okay, like I don't know how to cook, I don't know how to wash utensils, and I don't know how to keep my room clean and things like that. And well, I started doing it, telling myself that I'm doing this to help my mom with household chores and all of that. But I do see where my deeper motivation could be if I have a mate in the future, I
Hmm.
can cook and help her out, or I can sort of help her in the chores, like be somebody who's clean and hygienic and therefore more attractive. Yeah, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Vincent. Thank you for this, man.
Yeah, you're
so
welcome.
so so setting a bigger goal and then everything sort of aligning and moving you towards that ultimate goal, right?
Yeah. Yep.
That's nice. That's great. All right. Do you feel okay? Okay, Vincent, these are the last two questions. Uh, do you feel there are no avenues to discover the real self in the real world for normal people? Uh, like psychosis, do you think there are avenues where they can discover their real selves?
Yeah. I think through online forums where they talk about spiritual stuff is a good avenue for which they can look at themselves.
But I mean, I'm a little skeptical about this because, well, theoretically, even if I read about things like the shadow or archetypes, for example,
Mm.
or even you know intense concepts, I can digest them, but I have no frame of reference in my life to understand what they mean. And so
Yeah.
I'm a little skeptical that, okay, well, you may
Mm.
know what the theory is, but I don't really feel
Mm.
you understand the gravity of what you're studying or something. I mean, that's
Probably
just
not.
nice. Yeah, that's
Probably
my
not.
skepticism.
Yeah. I I can see how I don't fully grasp the gravity by which other people are able to look at themselves through like online forums on spirituality. Yeah.
Okay, last question, and then we can finish the interview. Has the experience of psychosis changed you in any way? Has it been a transformative experience, or are you the same person you were before psychosis?
No, I'm definitely different. The image that comes to my mind is a snake shedding its skin to grow bigger, or because it is grown bigger.
Right.
Yeah, it's been transformative.
That's it, Vincent.
All right.
We've finished the interview, man. We've done
Cool.
it in 4 iterations. We finished the interview. I'm so glad that you were a part of this, and I
Yeah,
will be
thank you for
sending you
having me.
my study, and yeah, so that you can go through what everybody else had to stay for the same questions I asked you.
Yeah.
And if
Yeah, I'm
there's
interested in
yeah
reading about that.
yeah if
Yeah.
there's any way I can reciprocate, I would be great. I mean, I would be delighted. So what for people in India, what I'm doing is, because we are a shitty economy, well, I ask them to look up a book from Amazon and then I order it for them. But because you are in the US, I well, I can't do that. So if
Hmm.
there's I mean, I'll have to go to Amazon.com and then I don't know if okay, you tell me what you want from me, and I would want to reciprocate because you've done a lot
Okay.
for me. Yeah,
Yeah.
let me know.
So
Okay,
that yeah,
right
so
now.
something comes to mind. This is like this is something that I'm gonna ask you in the future, like in 5 years. So I am in the process of writing a book on my experience. It's going slow but very steady. I'm reading books right now on psychotic people, whether fiction or nonfiction. That's like the first step, and then like the next step is I want to make a rough draft, and then get it edited, and then eventually like publish it. So I'm
Right.
just reading right now.
Okay.
So this is a long, multiple year project.
Okay.
So in the future, I'm gonna need like people to read the book. So in the future, I'll ask you like, hey, can you just tell people about this book?
Of course. I mean,
Okay.
yeah. You can you ask me something that you need that dude? I'm going to do a lot for you if you ask me nicely. And but
I
dude, this
mean,
is something you need that I can help you with right now.
right now, um, right now,
Okay, think
not
about it,
really.
Vincent.
No.
Yeah, you can text me on Instagram if that is. But I'm
Okay.
just really grateful. I'll just stop the recording.